You are listening to the People-Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders. So we are big fans of the book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And we have heard a lot of people who have referred back to that book. If you haven't read it, we do recommend it. It's a good book. He looks at some corporations who have gone through periods of great success. And then they went inside and said, like, what is helping you to be successful? And they find some really cool concepts. There's like the hedgehog concept to focus on the things that you're really good at. But there's one of his concepts that gets a lot of airplay that we want to talk about today. And it's this idea of start by getting the right people on the bus and then put them in the right seats. That's the concept. That's the statement. We have been hearing that a lot lately, and we're going to push back on that a little bit. We don't think that's entirely true. Maybe it's not about just finding the right people. Maybe companies need to be careful about going out and just saying, if I just find a whole bunch of wonderful people out there and bring them into my company, then I can figure out what to do with them later and we'll be wildly successful, because we often see that it's not set up for success for the people. And what the heck is a wonderful person anyway, right? So that a lot of that is a lack of definition. We're going to explore that topic together. We've got our whole team with us here. We've got Diana from the West Coast out here. What do West Coast people say when they say hello?
Hi. It's still the United States, so.
Oh, it's the same?
Is it? Pretty much the same, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
Weird.
Right.
Fun
Thank
fact.
you. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Well, hi, or as they say in Seattle, hi.
Oh my God.
All right. And then we've also got Stephanie Anderson, who's here with us. Stephanie, I don't know what to ask you. I don't have a good question for you. Although if you're watching the video side, we can see your dog behind you.
You can see my dog portrait. You can get yours on Etsy. Make a comment in the podcast and I'll send you the link. But in the Midwest, we just say, oh.
Oh means everything. It's like, sorry, I bumped into you. Sorry, I forgot your birthday. Good to see you.
Didn't mean to bump into you
there.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to bump into you there. Yeah, that's good. I like that. And then we also have in her closet, Bethany Taff, which is kind of funny, Bethany, because over your shoulder, you can kind of see Stephanie. It's a little bit funny to show like how our office is laid out there. So a little bit of an inside production value. If you're watching the video here, it's we have an open office layout. So we have a phone booth, and Bethany spends a lot of time in the phone booth.
Yeah, there's probably no reason that I'm mostly in here and you guys are out there. I don't know why that is.
Oh no. Oh no.
I know exactly why that is. That's why I work from home.
This is why I moved to Seattle.
Oh, that's like the main reason you moved to Seattle? Wow.
Is that like the new Taylor Swift? Like, it's me. I'm the is it me?
Oh, got you there.
No, I like you guys, but I just come in here sometimes.
Well, extroverts unite outside of the phone booth.
Yeah. And introverts unite separately. That's the way that it goes, right? So, all right. Well, and then we've got myself, Don Harkey. Somebody told me recently, they said, you never introduce yourself. I'm Don Harkey. I don't know what else to say there. I don't have any special.
Should we ask you a question? Like, I feel like.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Diana. What questions do you have for me?
What's your middle name?
How dare you? And who do you think that you are? Those are my questions.
Those are good questions. My middle name's William. Matt, I'll go to yours.
I don't know if I knew that. That's what I was asking.
Oh, I knew that, but
Donald William Harkey.
Donald William.
Feel like I'm in trouble because that's the only time I hear those three things.
Or a graduation, right? Isn't that what they did? Donald William Harkey.
I don't remember. I think there were air horns.
Don graduated like 30 years ago, so it's hard to remember now.
Not a lie at all. Actually, 31 now. So that's great. Happy New Year, everybody. All right. Well, I'm depressed and may just kind of sit this one out. And we're going to turn this one over to our host, Matt Griswold, who has 3 T's in his name for some reason. So Matt Griswold, take it away.
I just noticed that. Thank you. Thank you for that. I can edit it if it's going to bother people, because I know there's certain people that look at it and they're like, I can't focus on anything else until we get that solved. There you go. Matt Griswold, two T's, traditional spelling, short for Matthew, which means, fun fact, gift from God. You're welcome. All right, so let's get started, shall we? First thing, let's talk about, Don. You just talked about this idea of I just want to get people on the bus, then we'll figure out what to do with them. You know, it has been more than on one occasion that I think we should address this first, because some people might have been going, "Well, wait a second, why is that wrong?" I think it's been on more than one occasion we've worked with organizations where they are in talent grab mode. Like, we don't even have departments yet for these people. We're just going to go grab talent. Are you saying those people are wrong, or maybe what's their perspective or their approach that's different? How do you want to decipher what you said in the beginning versus the folks that are like, no, we are in talent grab mode. We're trying to grab talent. I don't even care where it's coming from.
Great question. So, like, let's talk about different organizations, because it's a different kind of a game, right? If you're an organization, you have 1,000 people inside the organization, and you see somebody that's wildly talented and you know that they can fit into something successful, bringing them in and hiring them and then finding a seat on the bus is a lot less risky, obviously, than if you have 10 people and you're just going to hire somebody really talented and bring them in. However, that's not just about the hiring the person and finding the talent. That's not all that you need to be successful as a company. You can't just say, I'm going to find great people, bring them in and hope they do great work. We need to design the company and put them into roles where they can be successful. So we've seen lots of companies, big and small, bring that rock star in, and that's not the wrong move. The wrong piece is then to say, hey, rock star, go do your thing, be a rock star. And then you leave them alone. And then that rock star tends to move on because it wasn't really defined what they need to do in the organization around them. They weren't set up for success ultimately at the end of the day. So thanks for making that distinction right off the bat. It can be a really bad mistake if you have, like we have a small company, we have 6 of us, there are 5 of us. If somebody came in and we just said, oh, you're wildly talented, but we have no idea what role you're going to do, that's going to be really disruptive for them and us.
Yeah, some larger organizations might have other places to hide that person until maybe that actual job where they could shine in might come to light. But in smaller organizations, you're right, it could be detrimental. So there's some background pieces, there's some background work that needs to go into play, which is what we're going to talk about now. I can't help but also point this out too. I imagine one of the hottest topics that we are being asked to go speak about is hiring and retaining talent. Like, we're going to do a webinar on that for another group here shortly, Don, within the next couple of weeks, hiring and retaining talent. I'm listening to the people laughing in their cars going, yeah, we've got to be careful not to hire too many people right now. Right? That's not even a thing. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to comprehend. Like, we're having a hard time. We're having to settle for the types of people that we're getting in. It's not even a question of being able to hire too many people. But the other side of that too is, and Stephanie, you mentioned this idea of kind of a quiet hiring phase there too, where the other side of that coin, and you can talk about this as well, the other side of that coin is we're not looking to hire people because of, and you can talk about maybe why there, but we have these other resources that are also in play within the organization already. We already have some of these resources we can maybe redistribute. How does that, maybe talk about this idea of quiet hiring, and then we're going to tie both of these concepts together and talk about both.
Yeah, I mean, quiet hiring apparently is the new buzzword. We've heard quiet quitting, all these things. Now, quiet hiring. And essentially what it means is, an organization would look within the organization to accomplish new work. So there's generally kind of, 3 different types of hiring of where it's like, oh, we hire because we have this great business need. We need to bring someone in. We don't have someone to do the skills. We've developed a new area of our business that we just need more people than we have now for more business. And then there's kind of this weird third one where it's like, hey, we've got some new and different stuff to do and try, but maybe for financial reasons, we can't bring in a completely new person to do this. Or it's like, hey, when we look at the strengths and assets of our team, we think if we just shuffled things around that we would actually be able to accomplish this. So, you might have experienced this before if you're within an organization and your leader or manager suddenly comes to you like, hey, we want to kind of shift your role a little bit. And could you come over in this area? And it could mean just even changing your role within your own department, or it could mean moving you completely to a different part of the organization to help accomplish something inside. the organization or help execute a new idea or a new project. And where, there's some pros and cons with both of this. And I think the cons that a lot of workers and employees feel is like, this massive shift just happened. And did I really have a say in it? And what do I do now? I have this role that's unclear, and I probably got moved, and some really nice compliments were said to me about my skill set and what I bring to the team and why they trust me to do this. But suddenly I don't really have clarity on what I'm doing anymore. And now maybe it feels like the work that I was doing before isn't as important because you're willing just to give it to someone else. So it's kind of a tricky place as an employee to be in. And I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in and kind of share about their experiences of doing this and really how we can manage this if we are the person that's going through this process.
Also, just to add on that, and then we can open here too. But I also think, you talked about the cons. Part of the pros, because I always try to anticipate the listener's reaction as you're listening to this, going, wait a second. She said, were we painting hiring and promoting from within as a bad thing? No. That's not the hiccup, right? That's not the bad thing. In fact, I think that's a good best practice. If you have the talent there, promoting within, hiring within, succession planning, we're pro all of those things, right? As long as the talent is there. Another pro is that if I can do that, I might even be able to save a little bit of money instead of having to rehire and retrain and bring other people in. Like, I understand where the pros are coming from, but what we're really talking about are kind of those pitfalls, right? So we're talking about some of those cons in this case. If I am the employee and internally, maybe you're having those executive meetings and you're going, we need to replace some of these actions without hiring somebody. You know what? Janice is great. She probably has a little bit more bandwidth. She's proven to be great here. Let's just add some more responsibilities there. Everything we've thrown at Janice succeeds. And then we add more responsibilities to Janice. And then Janice at first, maybe let me just ask you, how's Janice feeling in that moment? Initially,
I think it's complicated, right? Yeah. And Diana, you can jump in and say something too, because on one hand, it feels nice to be recognized. But then on the other hand, now there's like this confusion of, is this a promotion, or are you just asking me to pitch in on a project? Like, what's really happening with my role here?
Yeah. And I was going to say, this used to happen to me a lot because I am pretty flexible. I can do a lot of things, and where you're needed. And so you kind of take on 900 things, and then you stop and you look and you're like, I don't have priorities anymore, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I can't feel successful because nothing is ever really complete, and I feel a little lost. But I like doing a lot of things, and I like that people value my contributions and think that I am good at my work. And so it is really complicated feeling, because you're like, yes, I love this, and also hate it.
I'm really glad we stopped doing that too, right, Diana?
Yeah,
putting you in 1,000 different places with a bunch of expectations, right?
I mean, it's less so now, maybe. I don't know.
That sounded so sad. It's less so. I think I know a little bit of what I'm doing.
I have managed thus far, and I will continue to do so and raise my hand when I can't.
I think there's some of that, and I like that, Matt's original point of like, it's different for different organizations, right? Like there's a little bit of hashtag small business where people have to cover a lot of different roles, but that doesn't mean that's good, right? That doesn't mean it's good. And one of the things that I think we've learned and where we've seen the most growth and the most success is that when we have taken our team and allowed us to focus in the areas that we do really well. That's something that every time we make that investment and say, let's expand our team, or let's focus our team, or let's and leverage that instead of bringing in a whole bunch of jack of all trades. So like Diana, I mean, like, let's use you as an example here a little bit. Like, you work with clients, you are a COO, you do their financials or accounting or HR. You do a lot of our operational stuff. You do a lot of our technology stuff. I mean, it's all of that. And so it would be tempting sometimes for businesses to say, okay, Diana is overloaded, so I need to hire another person that does all of those things. Well, you're kind of setting up a whole team of people to fail ultimately here if you keep adding people to this department to do all of these things. The right answer, and again, this is why we say you get the right, don't just add people to the bus and then get them in the right seat. Sometimes you have to take a step back and say, how can we arrange these seats a little bit differently? how can we make sure that there is a seat, that is there enough of a role now? If it's more work than what Diana can do, maybe there is a piece. I didn't even mention marketing. You do marketing. Maybe there's a piece like in marketing where we could add somebody and get some help in the marketing side, or add somebody that can just do the operations side, or whatever that is. And then you can kind of split roles up a little bit. The more you create the fit for the person and the role together, the better it is for the person and it is for the company. And it's not just about having the great person in place, which Diana is awesome, and which is why she can handle all of those things. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge too, a lot of things you're saying are still reality.
Well, thanks. But yeah, I do think that for the person, it starts to feel like you're not really successful at anything. You're not really great at anything. You have no like unique value. And so when people say like, well, Diana, what's your strengths? I'm like, yikes, I don't even know anymore. It used to be this thing, but I haven't touched that in months. I don't know if I'm good at that anymore. Right now I'm muddling through this thing because I'm picking it up and I'm learning. So I don't know if I'm good at that. And so it does cause this strange thing where people know you're good, but you yourself are kind of confused about what you're really good at.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the organization that's made the decision to continue to add the responsibilities, not people-centric. We'll quit using Diana as an example, but organizations that continue to add the responsibilities at maybe a higher level, they're thinking, okay, this is great. We solved that problem, right? We solved it. Fantastic. They're doing great work. And like Diana's point, initially, you kind of wear it like a badge, like they trust me with this. This is great. And then until they wake up one morning and they're going, this sucks. Why am I doing all of these different things? Like, why am I being tasked with all of these different things? And now, two things. Now, this thing that I'm doing and this thing I'm doing are so not related at all. It's a total mind switch or flip for me to wait. I have to do this. Okay, this is a whole different day, and I'm doing something completely different. I have to switch my mind to go do this now. I think, to a certain point, we all can probably relate to what that is and what that feels like. And so I think part of this is we understand why organizations try to make those decisions that they do, but they also need to understand maybe the ramifications to the employee if you are making some of those decisions. And then how do I manage that? Sometimes it comes down to transparency and bringing them along for the ride of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Stephanie?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say of like, hey, if you're in a position where you have to do this, because this happens sometimes, and we're not like faulting any organization for doing this. We're just saying, I think like put some intentionality behind it and make sure you're really communicating with that person why this is happening, not just why you value them. Because I think what I'm hearing everybody say is like the compliments feel really nice and the badge is great, but it's kind of short-lived. And then after a certain point, that becomes your point of criticism, right? Of like, well, now I'm never getting the wins. Now I'm never really getting my roses, so to say, because I keep shifting and moving stuff around and I never really get to enjoy what I'm doing. So be sure you're communicating with that person if you need to do this within your organization of like, here's what we're hoping this will accomplish. And it's almost like creating a whole new scorecard in that sense for this person, that even though their role might touch a lot of different areas now, and it's going to be a little more broad, of still giving them those pieces that they can latch onto to say, I know what's expected of me and I know how to do a really great job. I know what winning looks like. And is this a season and this is kind of a project period, or this is maybe where we're shifting organizationally for a while? Because then that also help the employee know how they should respond to it. Of, okay, if it's more project based, then this is maybe an opportunity for me to build some new skill sets and try out different things in different areas of the organization. Or if it's going to be more permanent, then maybe I can use that as a moment to talk about promotions and growth within the company that I would like to see for myself. And could we incorporate this into what we're doing right now?
Yeah, it comes down to that transparency in the conversation. I say this quite a bit too. Adults, for the most part, are okay if the answer is no, as long as they know why the answer is no. So if they're going, was this a permanent thing or not? I can imagine there's executives going, well, this is why we're doing it, but I can't tell them that. Like, we're doing it because of this. I don't have the funds to be able to hire somebody. I can't tell them we don't have enough money to hire somebody. Or, just because you don't say it doesn't mean their mind stops working. It doesn't mean they've already thought of a reality that's probably way worse in their own minds than the actual reality of the situation. And so you will do yourself a favor if you kind of bring them along for the ride. I could think of Don doing this on more than one occasion going, yeah, you know what? We're in this time right now. We'll call it this sucks. That's what we're in right now. It's going to hurt for probably just a little bit, but here's light at the end of the tunnel. And this is why I'm saying there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like, come along for the ride with me. And so for those employees that we are tasking with, multiple different things, I would also say this, and you can add to it if you'd like, or go a different direction. But, something that I ask organizations, especially new organizations that we begin to work with, how many of those employees are currently working outside of the original job description that they were hired for anyway? The majority of them, I bet, and I bet they haven't even seen it since they were hired, or maybe you had them sign it during some sort of an HR process or orientation process. That thing is long gone, right? We have morphed along the way, sometimes out of necessity. But Don, this might go to that next point too, that and the talent grab we were talking about there. But there are certain steps before I just make that decision. Whether it's the internal person, we should give them these responsibilities. I don't know, should you? And you kind of touched on this, but sometimes the gut reaction is, we lost that person. We need to immediately fill that person now with the best possible talent that we can get. And sometimes that job description that person was working under was created 10 or 12 years ago. And you don't take an opportunity to take a step back and go, do we though? Like, how has our business changed? And maybe there's a strategic planning element that might go into that too.
Yeah, there's a moment, I think, where, here's what typically happens. At some point, you sat down and thought about that. And you probably thought about it, most companies probably realistically thought about it with existing people that they had in place. So you had people and you said, how can I clearly capture what it is that those individual people do? And that's okay for those people. But then when the people switch, you're not taking puzzle pieces that are perfectly interchangeable together, and that stuff doesn't get updated. And the second piece is, maybe that's not the best way to design your organization either. Sometimes you need to take a step back and maybe blur your eyes for a second and decide, what is it that you need, not what is it just that you have. Now, I'm not saying that fire all of your people, figure out what it is you need and start all over again, but I think there's a little bit of an iterative process. If you took a step back and said, if I was redesigning our company today, forget about who I have, and I lost every single person, what would it look like? And draw yourself like a little org chart and lay it out like that. And it might look very different than what you have today. And then take that old org chart that you just created and look at the one that you have today and start to then merge those things together. And then think about, how can you move the pieces that you have into places? Oh, this makes a lot more sense. This person could do this. And I think if you follow that process every now and then as an executive in the company, I think you can deliberately design the machine. We often talk about the organization's a machine that's perfectly designed to get the results that it's getting right now. If you want to get different results, you have to redesign it. This is the redesign. And I think it's really, we often talk about culture and engagement and things like that. And this is an understated impact that we see in organizations where it's, you have all these demands. I was pausing to see if I wanted to code this, how much I wanted to code this. I'll heavily code it since I'm not sure whether I should or not. An acquaintance of mine was talking to a company is in college, and they saw a presentation from a company in college, and they were presenting to a group of analytical people. And they said, we need really great analytical people, very people driven, very good personalities. They need to be great at, they should be able to sell. They should be able to know the math. They should be able to dive into the details. They should be very organized. They should be everything. And when that company left, the person I know was talking to the other people in the class and said, they laughed. Because they're like, who the heck are you looking for? Who's analytical and great with people and also great with details and strategically minded and can sell? Like, who is that person that can do all of those different things? And I think it's a lot of that is because they're just describing like their traits of all of their best employees all into one, and they're looking for a unicorn. And that's a big mistake. So I think you have to take a step back. And if you haven't done this in a while, I think it's really going to be beneficial for your company. If you take a minute, take a step back, blur your eyes, think about how you would design the company if you didn't have the people that you have now. And then think realistically as you create those roles, does that human really even exist? Do you need the highly data analytical, super organized person who can dance, sing, also perform art and skydive and all of those? And Matt's nodding his head like, I can do all those things.
You lost me at skydiving. I can't do the sky. No chance. I try not to put myself in situations where I might die. And that's one of those situations. Bethany, can I piggyback on this though with you? Because I know that you like to look at the org designs, and I know this is where Don's kind of going here too. This is that puzzle piece, right? So as we continue to add the responsibilities to the people internally, now they might be doing stuff for this person, and they might be doing stuff for this person now. And we talked about maybe the hard part that employee might have, but what does that do structurally or culturally the more they continue to add without really taking a picture of that org design itself? Where do we see maybe mistakes with that, and that people can potentially watch out for?
So how does it impact the structure when they have continued things are being added to a person's job?
Not only structurally, but like culturally. The employee might say, this is difficult, or this sucks. I'm reporting this person. Now I have to do this thing here. But like, if I'm a business owner, or if I'm the CEO of the company, I might just be looking at a very high level of like, these are just the crap I got to get done, right? These are just the tasks I have to get done. I don't care who's doing it. We just got to take a look at that. But then when you look at it, like an org chart where they're like, yeah, these are all the people and doing all the things. Like, I don't know, are there some things that you can see, like this is clearly sideways, or maybe this is cleaner, and this is what you want to consider from a perspective like that?
Yeah. Well, I'll try to answer the question how I think.
Perfect. You're going to nail it.
But let me know if I'm not answering it the way that you're looking for. But I mean, I think you would naturally just start to see people being confused about like, who do I report to about this thing? If it's something that belonged to my boss that now belongs to this person, like, do I talk to this person about this now, or do I still talk to my boss? Is that person my boss? So we kind of have some of those things. Sometimes it's also like process changes now. So I can think of a specific example with an organization we work with where a new position was hired for. It was kind of a similar situation that we've talked about, where they were like a talent grab. They were a really talented person. They had a lot of experience at another location, and they were brought into this organization with not a super clear role. And so now coming in, they're kind of trying to do their best with what they think they're supposed to be doing, but it also creates a lot of confusion for other people about the process that they had been following. And so now it's the question of like, okay, now that this person is here, do they take on this part of the process now? And am I not supposed to do that anymore? Because nobody's really clarified that. And so I think those are some of the issues that I've seen specifically with this.
Yeah. And I know Bethany looks at that quite a bit for us, for other companies too. And it's amazing the stuff that you can kind of read. I was going to say it's like reading a poem, but no, it's different than that. I think, you're looking at the org chart, and Bethany is able to look at that and say, this seems like a problem, or this seems like a problem, or this would be frustrating. And to an organization or a CEO or an executive team, they're like, well, we just work hard. We just have to do stuff, but they don't realize the impact that it's having on the people. I like how you said the process changed too. That person might have been great, but the process changed since you put the person there, and now that person's not as great. Process change also plays into that too. So I think overall what we're saying is quiet hiring is not a new concept. Sometimes we have to establish different responsibilities to different people. Sometimes those jobs morph into other jobs. Sometimes you can't afford to hire other people to be able to backfill there, but bring them along for the ride. And we're also not saying that just get the people on the bus is a horrible idea, but there has to be some strategy planning that maybe goes along into that ahead of time too.
Can I add one more piece to that, Matt? I also think, like, when you think about getting the right people on the bus, I think the piece that I have the biggest pain for is what the right person is. If you say the right person is independent of the bus, that there are right people or wrong people out there, I think that is a very old management philosophy that has been absolutely proven to be wrong. There are not people that are universally good workers and people that are universally bad workers. There are people that are good fits to different jobs. We have seen people be terribly successful in one job and then be terribly unsuccessful in another job, and vice versa. There's a fit to it. It's a combination of the two things. It really is. Now, does that mean that there are people that are more likely to be successful in a wider variety of jobs? Absolutely. That's why we interview. That's why we talk to people. That's why we ask about work history. But this philosophy that there are two kinds of workers, there's good workers and there are bad workers, and we just have to find the good ones and then pitch the bad ones, is an old style of management. And you are going to fail as an organization thinking that way, because the good people won't want to work for you. There we go. That was the truth bomb. Sorry.
Yeah. Pew, 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 pew. That was the sound effect. Diana, have you been working on that sound effect for the truth bomb yet?
I
No?
have been working on it.
You just did the
I can't wait.
You just did the air horn thing
You
on
were
the
going to say
truth
I have
bomb.
not. I have not.
Oh, she said she has. I can't wait.
Wow.
It's going to be great. Stay tuned. Stay
Yeah,
tuned.
Stay tuned for the sound effects.
I think Diana just got quite hired to do the sound effects.
Oh, it's on my list. The list is very long, so it's down there. I'll get to it eventually.
So this is one of those unique topics where it's like, yeah, so right, and there's no like, so this is right, this is wrong. We're saying, I get why you do this, and sometimes there's a need to do that, and I get why you think that, and sometimes there's a need to think that, but there are some precautionary steps that you would want to take ahead of time. Like, really think about the organization, take a snapshot of that org chart. Are we still functioning the way that we are intended to function? Do we not like Don talked about the machine in the beginning? Are we producing the outcomes we're hoping to produce? Otherwise, if we're not, why am I continuing to backfill the same things? There might be more of a radical change that we need to have as an organization. Those people that we're tasking with, those employees, let's bring them along for the ride. Let's be transparent about the things that we can do, the things that we can't do. And this is why I would also say this. Don does a great job with this. I would also say this: if I am in a situation as an organization where it feels like I have to task other people with things, show appreciation for the things you recognize that this is not something that you normally do, that you like to do, that you were hired to do. Show appreciation for saying, but I appreciate you doing this because overall this is where we need you now, and we're better because you're doing that. And so I think that goes a long way with your employees as well. So other things to add to this topic, or do you feel like that we have covered this topic well?
I'm excited that we got to talk about this, because I just think that it is a misnomer. And I've heard that Jim Collins has got some great stuff in that book. So please don't hear this as we are Jim Collins haters. And we've even pitched his book a little bit here and do recommend it. But I think that statement is too simplified to say. And I think you probably agree, listening to this is my guess, actually, that you start with the right people, get them on the bus, and then figure out what seats that they go to. That is a recipe for a lack of success. So a recipe for a lack of success.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
We understand what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, if the wheels on the bus don't go around, you got to move people around. So
yeah,
there we go. That's just as bad.
That's the way the cookie bounces sometimes, I think is what we're saying, guys. All right. So
Exactly.
hopefully you have a takeaway, at least some little nugget of truth that you can either apply for yourself or share with somebody else. Maybe you know somebody going through that. Maybe you're an employee and it's not you, but this is happening to a peer of yours that's also an employee that feels like, man, I just feel the weight of this. Maybe you're a manager. Maybe you're a new manager that's being tasked with having to spread some of those responsibilities. I would just encourage you to bring those folks along for the ride. They're probably much more loyal and engaged than what you're giving them credit for to this point too. But there's detriment if we are not transparent with the communication and we don't think this out ahead of time before we just start acting. So just take some of those. Hopefully you can take those things into consideration. Keep sharing our podcast. We love the interaction. Listen closely here to the outro so you can find out how to give us more ideas or other ideas for topics, or if you just have questions we haven't covered as well, we're happy to entertain those and respond as well. We love you, right? We love you. Bye. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for listening to the People-Centered Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.